Chuck Surack is one of the most prolific entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and visionaries in Northeast Indiana, maybe beyond. He'll talk about his journey on the Midwest Flourish. Greetings, I'm Rick Farrant, and I'm your host for the Midwest Flourish. Today we're delighted to have with us Chuck Surack, who's arguably Northeast Indiana's most prolific philanthropist, entrepreneur, and visionary. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you, Rick. So glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here. Many people know your story, at least part of it. You know, they know that you started a recording studio in the back of a VW minibus, and that sort of transitioned and led to Sweetwater, which is the largest online music retailer in the country. I think I have that right. I've seen various things. It's like either the largest in the country or third in the world. Or what? Do you know where it is right now?
I don't really know. I just know we've been very, very successful, and I'm very thankful. And by the way, thank you for your kind words. I do appreciate that.
Oh no, it was amazing, those experiences, and that grew into a whole bunch of other enterprises: Sweet Cars, Sweet Aviation, Sweet Helicopters, the Pearl, the Clyde, the music technology programs and buildings that you've done in conjunction with Purdue Fort Wayne. I know I've left some out.
No, you're doing really good. I'd like to hire you for marketing. This is good.
Well, please do.
Okay.
But at any rate, what are some of the others that you feel you'd like to mention?
Well, probably my swan song, the one that's the dearest to my heart right now, is the Pearl Street Arts. We opened that up about a year and a half ago, and my goal was to find a way to give back to the citizens of Fort Wayne, more specifically the students in Fort Wayne Community Schools. And I'm a product of Fort Wayne Community Schools myself, and I know there's a lot of young ones that would be interested in music, but they're in a situation where maybe they can't afford it. So my goal was to open a facility that we would offer free music lessons, depending on the family's ability to pay, to every person, no matter how young or old they were. And we hope to have 100 students. We opened up about a year and a half ago, and we had 500 students. And now we're in our second year, and it's just exploding. It's down on Pearl Street, and it's a beautiful facility. Right now it has about 18 different lesson rooms and a big 400-person concert hall. And we have kids coming every day from Amp Lab, learning entrepreneurship and business. And I think that's the coolest thing. If you fast forward a few years, we'll have had thousands of students through that program. And I just believe we'll find the next Chuck Surack, or be able to pour into some young person's life.
Yeah, that's actually amazing, and that's part of other things at the Pearl. I mean, what else is at that sort of complex that you have down there?
Well, that's Pearl Street Arts. It's a little bit confusing. I named everything after the Pearl Street. I probably should not have done that, but the Pearl on the south side is a 90 apartment building. And so it's got the More Restaurant in it, which is a high-end Italian steak and seafood restaurant. We have the Crescendo Cafe, so you can have breakfast or lunch, that sort of thing. And then about 90 residents or apartments in that building.
Yeah. Okay. You've helped explain that.
Yeah.
The north side and the south side on the Pearl. You and your wife, Lisa, who you're always with, you gave up your majority stake in the music retailer in 2021, and you formed Surack Enterprises and then the Surack Family Foundation. Tell us a little bit about those ventures, because it seems like those ventures are, at least from a philanthropic standpoint, that's where you're at.
Yes, we did sell the majority of Sweetwater, although we kept a large piece. So we're still the largest individual shareholder of Sweetwater. So it'll always be my baby, and it's always important to me. But it did allow me to go out, and my wife and I, to go out and do things that we'd done on a small scale, but now we can do on a much bigger scale. We specifically started the foundation so we could have a clear way to give back and support other organizations. Now, we had done that for a long time at Sweetwater, but this was a very clear and specific way to do it. And so we're supporting, most of the nonprofits in Fort Wayne with a real emphasis on mental health and human welfare. We live in the greatest country in the world, and yet there's still people that are hungry or homeless, and it's a sad, sad thing.
How do you decide? Because you have given to so many organizations and so many initiatives. How do you decide when you think it's the right thing, which, by the way, is your sort of your moniker, do the right thing? How do you decide what the right thing to do is when you're giving money?
Well, there's a lot of need in our community, in our nation, frankly, and around the world. But there's also a lot of great organizations doing amazing work. And if their direction and their goals align what are important to my wife and myself, it becomes pretty easy. And sadly, the hard thing is I wish I had more money so I could support more organizations. But, again, we're really concerned about mental health. We're concerned about that young child learning to read. If they get to third grade and they can't read, they're behind not just in school, they're behind the rest of their lives. So we have to get these little ones coming to kindergarten prepared and ready to learn so they can read by third grade.
Yeah, what are some other heartfelt things that sort of touch you and propel you to give some money?
Oh my gosh, just anything that's got a good cause that makes our community better or stronger or helps those that maybe are in a situation that they hadn't planned to be in. All of us could be one incident or one accident away from needing that extra help from somebody. And so I just think it's important to always give back and find ways to help others.
How much of a role does your relationship with the people who are running these initiatives, how much of a role does that play?
A lot. I want to know that the executive director is all in. I want to know that the board is really engaged. And most importantly, I want to know that they're doing great work for our community and for the individuals they're serving.
Yeah, and do you have metrics like a lot of philanthropic organizations have? Because it seems like you don't. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not where you have like 7 pages of yeah.
No, I mean, we can look at that, we can analyze that information, but I really want to know what their heart is, what their intent is, and I do look at a little bit of a track record, but I also look at brand new organizations that just have a plan or a goal, and we'll get involved in those also.
I'd like to delve some more into the philanthropy and the entrepreneurship, but I had this question. When you were 5 years old, you were making and selling potholders to, I read this on your website. Actually, I knew a lot about you, but I didn't know this. You were making and selling potholders to family and friends, which I guess is the start of your entrepreneurial journey. Where did that come from? Or you're just a 5-year-old kid that just wanted to make a few bucks?
I would say I was a 5-year-old kid that had lots of energy and always looking for things to do. And by the way, the word entrepreneurial wasn't even a word back when I started. But I grew up in Southern Ohio. My mom and dad were down in Southern Ohio, and that's where I was born. And so my little town of Waverly, Ohio, had 5,000 people in it, and I made hundreds and hundreds of potholders. Where you'd put the little loops in and then go the other direction, and then I'd sell them for 15 cents a piece or 2 for a quarter.
And you did that because why? You were making money.
I was making money, but it wasn't that much. But I was just driven. I had many entrepreneurial experiences back then. When I was in 6th grade, I started selling bubblegum in the school, which is hilarious today, but there were no rules or anything about it. So I would buy the bubblegum in cases at a wholesale level, and I'd make twice what I paid for it, so I got twice the return. But I also got a free model car with every case of bubblegum that I bought. And that went on for about 4 months, and finally the school board passed a rule basically against Chuck Surack that says you can't sell in our school system anymore.
Yeah, it wouldn't flow. It wouldn't fly today.
No,
either.
it would not. But I had a paper route. Most of my friends had 30 or 40 papers. I delivered 300 papers. I figured out that I could deliver to apartment complexes and senior citizen homes, which were small and close together, and I could get a lot of papers done quickly.
Well, I mean, was there any influence from your parents or relatives for this, or did this just come naturally to you?
It came pretty naturally because I am driven. I'm the oldest of 5. I will say my dad was a serial entrepreneur, but never to the level I was. He was a chemical engineer by day, but he had a lot of interesting after work kind of extracurricular activities.
Okay. Also, when you started the minibus recording studio, which, by the way, sounds kind of cheesy when you think about the kind of technology we had back there, did you envision where this was all going to go, or was this did it just sort of happen organically?
Rick, I wish I could tell you I was so smart that I could have planned that, but no. I went to school here in Fort Wayne. Went to Wayne High School, and I thought I would take a year off and do music, and then my real goal was to be a pediatrician. So I was going to go do music for a year, come back. We didn't call it a gap year back then, but I was going to do that and then come back and go to school and be a doctor. And once the music was bubbling in my blood, there was no turning back. So I played on the road for about 5 years and didn't know what I wanted to do after that, but I knew I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. And I came back to Fort Wayne. All I really had was the VW bus and a little bit of equipment that I had picked up on the road.
Yeah, you didn't. I mean, it sounds like you're kind of a vagabond. You didn't even have much money then, did you?
Nope. You know, when I was on the road, you'd make about $50 a week, and you got free room and board. So, and that's why I finally quit being on the road. I knew I wasn't going to be a good enough musician to play at a professional national level. But came home, I had the VW bus and a little bit of recording equipment. And I thought, well, I can record remotely because I didn't have a facility. I was living in a mobile home on the south side of Fort Wayne, actually. But I could take that bus alongside the school, the church, the nightclub, and record the band or the choir or the preacher or the company president, and then sit in the bus with my headphones and a reel-to-reel tape recorder back then, and I could record them. And then eventually I would edit those songs in the right order, and then we'd send them away and get pressed into LPs or cassettes and eventually CDs and that sort of thing.
So, I mean, some people would look at that and they would say, Chuck's never really going to amount to much because the poor guy is sitting there alone inside his VW doing these recordings. Did you feel that way? Did you feel directionless even at that point?
I wouldn't say directionless because I've always been interested in everything. I mean, the appetite that I have for all kinds of creative things is big. What I will say, I have two stories. You know, first off, you're absolutely right. I heard from all the professionals, a recording studio in Fort Wayne? No, you need to be in Nashville. You need to be in LA. You need to be in New York. So that's what I heard from my attorneys and accountants and bankers and all that. The other story is when I was in those early days, 21, 22, a little bit floundering, my grandfather, who had been a career employee at General Electric, his son, my uncle, had been a career employee. Just many of our families worked at GE. My grandfather was so happy and proud that he got me in the GE tool and die program. And I had to break his heart to say, Grandpa, I don't see myself being a tool and die guy. And he was a little disappointed, but eventually he became my biggest fan.
Yeah. What drives you to propel? I know you say that you're active and you like creative, but really what drives you? What compels you to keep doing all of these projects and initiatives?
Oh, they're so much fun. And I do have so much energy, and so I just am interested in so many things. I could have done a variety of careers, but I just love the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah. But I'm going to ask you sort of a touchy question, but you're getting older and you still have energy? Do you like sleep?
No, I sleep about 4 hours a night, sometimes 3. Go to bed at 1, wake up at 5 is pretty typical for me.
What do your doctors say about that?
I don't know. I could pass out tomorrow, but right now I'm still doing well. I've got more energy and I'm more busy than I've ever been, but I'm also loving it.
Yeah. Would you recommend that sleep pattern for other people?
I think whatever works for you.
Okay.
It works for me, but it's been that way my whole life.
Yeah.
I used to sleep 3 hours. I sleep a little longer now.
And you don't take naps?
Never. I've never taken a nap. I literally have not taken a nap in my life.
Really?
No.
Oh, my God.
I just have so much energy, got so many things to do, so many places to go.
I want what you're eating or what you're drinking. I do. I mean, naps can be great. So let's talk seriously here for aspiring entrepreneurs out there. What have you learned in your journey, and how have you ensured successes in your ventures? Some people might argue that you sort of have the Midas touch, the golden touch, that everything that you touch turns to gold. But let's talk about the things that you've learned, even maybe some of the failures or semi-failures.
Well, let's talk about the positive stuff first.
Okay.
Every one of my businesses is based around having great people there. You have to treat your people well. If you don't treat your people well, how in the heck would you expect them to treat your customers? And so that's always been my strength. I love the people I work with. It's one of the saddest parts about selling Sweetwater. I'm not around, the 2,500 people every day like I used to be. But I just love working with great people and inspiring them and letting them be free and go do what they need to do. I've tried really hard to never micromanage. I work from a distance. I give them some direction and some vision, but then let them do it. Let them really excel. From an entrepreneur point of view, what I would say is you're living your dream and it's yours. And I'm sure in those early days when that banker or that accountant told me that, a recording studio is not going to work in Sweetwater, I'm sure I probably got frustrated and disappointed. But it was, I think about that, it was probably arrogant on my part because they didn't know my dream. They didn't know my language. It was a whole foreign language to them. It'd be like me trying to speak French today or something. So I would tell a young entrepreneur, if they believe in something, of course you get advice from people around you, but absolutely go for it. And you've got to be in 110% and don't let other people discourage you. That's what I would say.
And that can be frightening. That can be scary, right? But apparently you're not. I mean, some people don't start a business because they have those negative voices going in their head saying, maybe this is not going to be good. I'm not really sure about this. The economy is not really good right now. There are all kinds of, blocks to being an entrepreneur. But it sounds like you don't have those.
I don't have those. What I say all the time is anything's possible and failure's not an option. I've never closed a business. I've never laid off an employee. There's just always a way to make things happen. But I would also say you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can be a great employee. You can, just find satisfaction in your life. And if you don't have that drive, if you don't have that ability to not be afraid, then maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur.
So, but you must have had some moments where it was sort of tenuous or not. I mean, if you tell me you had no...
No, I know it's a common question, and the only thing I can tell you in my early days, I did have credit cards maxed out. I had a second mortgage on my home and all that, but there's never been a day where I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my employees? I've never paid an employee a day late. I've never worried about a business going out of business. My philosophy is failure is not an option. There's always a way.
So this is my take, you're a modest man. And I've witnessed it. And I mean, you don't beat people over the head with your successes. It's not like I'm Chuck and look at me and look what I've done, right? I mean, you don't do that. I'll tell you times when I've seen it. You and I served on a marketing committee for Easter seals. You led that. But really, I felt when we were sitting there that you were just really one of us. You wasn't necessarily you were the head cheese. It was, we got stuff to do here and we have stuff to get accomplished. But I have a few more anecdotes. I've seen you run sound for events where everyone else is dressed to the nines and you're back there kind of dressed down, sort of in the shadows running the sound.
The sound guy.
You're the sound guy.
All right.
You like that?
I like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then one time in particular that I recall, and this was at GearFest, which I know you're not running GearFest at Sweetwater anymore, but I was on my way out. You were standing at the door, and I know you love to stand at the door and greet people, but you weren't really standing at the door and greeting people as Chuck, the CEO. Matter of fact, you could have passed for a Walmart greeter, just, making people feel good. And I dropped my keys, and there was a security guard standing next to you. You picked the keys up. The security guard didn't. And I thought, there are a lot of people in a position like yours who would not have stooped down to pick up. Well, but am I not right? I mean, there are some who would not have stooped down to pick up the keys, but you did. So my question is, does your modesty come naturally, or is it a strategy that you've developed?
No, it's not a strategy. I grew up as a Boy Scout, and a Boy Scout learns to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, clean, brave, and reverent. Amazing principles to run your personal life by, but they're also great principles to run your businesses by. I just believe that we should all practice servant leadership. And so all of my employees would do exactly what I did, and I'm not any better or worse. I put my pants on the same way as everybody else. I try to be as normal as everybody else. I'd say the one disappointing thing about my success is people are afraid of me. I'll hear all the time they're afraid to reach out. I publish my phone number, my email address. I'm as accessible as I can be, but there's something about my success that does intimidate people, and I'm disappointed in that because I try to be approachable and reachable all the time.
Is it just the success, or is it also the money? Do you ever feel like people want to get close to you just for the money? Is that something you feel or something you worry about?
There's a few individuals, but I don't really worry about that.
Yeah. Because I think some people do. I mean, I've talked to some people, and they worry, like, is this person really want to engage with me in a meaningful way, or are they just engaging with me because they know that I have resources that could be helpful to them?
Yeah, I don't know. I just look for the best in people all the time, and I don't really see that.
So I did ask about your generosity on money. I know we're talking a lot about money here. Which is better, to have a lot of money or to have just what you need?
Oh, well, obviously, if you have a lot of money, you can help others.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of fun. But, I donate my time as much as I do my money. I donate my expertise as much as I do my money. So.
Okay. You play the saxophone.
I do play the saxophone.
And this is another example of you sort of staying anonymous, because I've seen you and your band play out. And, I would wager a bet that the vast majority of the people that are sitting there have no idea who you are, other than you're just a saxophone player. And certainly you're not introduced with any great fanfare, which I assume is something that you really enjoy, because in that moment you just want to be the saxophone player in the band, right? I mention that because it's not a coincidence that a lot of your ventures revolve around music. So how do you see the value of music and entertainment in providing stability, growth to a community, helping economic development?
Great question. Music, of course, is the universal language. And I love, as an example, at the Club Room out at the Clyde Theater, that is an absolute cross-section of our community. And I don't care what color, I don't care what nationality you are, everybody is welcome there and feels welcome there. And I think part of that is the music. What we're doing at Pearl Street Arts is about the music. And when I think about our lives in general, can you imagine if you were watching a movie and there was no sound or no music? It's just a dimension that would be just missing. And I do believe that music, arts, sound is a big economic driver to making a community successful and feel successful. And that's why, in Fort Wayne, we're on a path right now to make Fort Wayne one of the top 10 music cities in the whole country.
Talk a little bit about that. You're saying we're in the top 10 of doing that.
We're not yet. We're working towards it.
Okay, but where does that come from? I mean, do you truly believe that Fort Wayne can be? One of the things we've talked about Fort Wayne and the region is what's the identity that attracts people to come. And you have other regions and other cities in the country. Nashville. Why you go to Nashville, right? It's music. Why are you so certain that Fort Wayne can actually become a destination city or region, and that it is grounded in music?
Well, it may sound a little boastful, and I don't mean it that way, but right off the bat, just having Sweetwater here with 2,500 employees that I've relocated, more than half of them from all over the country. But not only does that make Sweetwater a strong musical thing, all of a sudden now spouses are dancing in the various organizations in town, or they're performing at the churches or practicing at the churches. And we've got more live music in our community. We have more recorded music in our community than most communities our size. There's more nightclubs that are playing, have bands playing. It's a really strong musical community. We got Arts United, which is one of the oldest arts organizations in the whole country, helping promote and produce that kind of stuff. And so I'm just really excited about arts in general in our community.
Yeah. What is the one thing, or what are some things that people might know, not yet, that you've not already mentioned, that people might not know about you, that they might find interesting, other than the fact that you never sleep and that your mind is always going?
Yeah.
What are some and that you don't like the fact that some people may be afraid of you?
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, and most people won't believe this, but I'm actually really shy. I'm not the first one to speak in the room. I'm kind of back in my wife and I both are back in the corner of the room. And that's, when I have to get on stage, I have to speak, I'll do it. But I would much prefer to be a shadow in the background.
Yeah. And was that something you were your whole life? You were shy? Are you basically an introvert?
I'm definitely an introvert.
So what the heck is an introvert doing with all these things that are out in the public view?
I don't know.
Come on, Chuck.
Yeah,
I mean, really, like what are you doing here?
Maybe it's my way to cope with being an introvert, doing the extrovert.
Oh, doing the
thing.
doing the extrovert thing. What is your full scope vision for Fort Wayne? Like in a perfect world, what would you like to see?
Wow, that is a big question.
It's a big question, and you can just peel the onion as far as you want.
I can talk about what my wife and I want to do and why we're doing that. I can also talk about what I think the community needs to do. My wife and I have been incredibly blessed. We were born with nothing, and I don't see U-Haul trailers at cemeteries very often. So we're just doing everything we can to help others and give back. And if we can make the place a little better than we found it, that's awesome. As a community, we've been on the move for quite a while, basically since we built the baseball stadium. And I just hope that momentum keeps going. There's some challenges right now, and of course a change with the mayor and all that. But I'm just hopeful that we have a community that's great for everybody to live in and want to be here and continue to grow and have population growth like we've had.
Yeah. Do you have a you probably wouldn't want to talk about it. Do you have a project or initiative that you haven't done that on the horizon you think it might be something you'd want to dabble with?
I don't know about that specifically. I'm really busy now with several big projects that are going on. We're remodeling the old St. Francis or
Scottish Rite.
Scottish Rite, thank you, building. That's a big project. Won't be done until the spring of 28. It's about a $50 to $60 million project. It'll be a 2,000-seat theater, and just it'll be great to have another facility like that in Fort Wayne. We really need one of that size. We're working on a grocery store downtown. That'll be open next spring of 27. That'll be on the other side of Pearl Street. We've hired a grocer that ran 3 stores for an owner over in Ohio, but he had a store up in Syracuse and one down in Gas City, and I don't remember where the other one was, but a very seasoned professional grocer. And we'll have a full meat market, a bakery, a commissary, and then, of course, all the dry goods and all that. It'll be a great store. And it'll be a smaller store, maybe on the size of Fresh Market, something like that. So it won't be a 100,000 or 200,000 square foot store, but it'll be a really nice store for downtown.
Yeah, but at least people won't have to leave the downtown
Absolutely.
in order to get their groceries. Okay, so you got the grocery store, you've got the Scottish Rite. What else is on
So
that?
we're working on a racetrack. So we've entered into a contract to buy the land where the cruise auction park used to be. And
Up north.
Up north.
In Auburn,
Yep, just south of Auburn. And we'll build a 3.5-mile racetrack that we can do everything from sports car sort of races to literally FIA certified IndyCar races can happen there. Again, we'll start on that later this year, and it'll be a couple years out. So.
And do you expect that there'll be some significant events there as you talk about some of the some of the circuit events?
We do.
Where'd that come from? Do you like car racing?
I like cars, like car racing.
Well, I know you like cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a big car community, and Auburn welcomed us with open arms. If you go all the way back to the Duesenbergs and all that, they used to run those things 100 mile an hour east of Auburn. And so they're thrilled to get something going at that auction park and to support an automotive industry again.
Yeah. We got a couple minutes.
Sure.
How does Lisa, your wife, who I see with you often, how does she factor into this whole thing? I guess as a supporter, as a wife, what's her involvement and what's her role?
Ooh, that's a great question. She's very involved from supporting me, and I clear everything with her. She's my partner in life. She's not actively involved in most of those things, but when I need her help, she'll step right up and do whatever she needs to do. But she's very supportive in all of it.
Yeah, and does she ever offer advice, or does she let Chuck just go off and do whatever it is that he's going to do?
For organizations.
Or do you ever seek advice from her?
I seek advice from her all the time.
All the time.
I'm not stupid. I would make sure I get her advice. But I will tell you, especially on the support or the donations that we do, she's involved in all those decisions, and we decide how big we want to support or how much we want to support together.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been wonderful having you here, and even though you and I have known each other for years, we haven't had a discussion quite like this. So I really appreciate your coming by and good luck with all your future ventures.
Well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate the opportunity today. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Midwest Flourish podcast. Want to dig deeper or get involved? Head to marketingthemidwest.com to explore how we can work together to empower your community to flourish. Let's keep the Midwest momentum going and shape the future of our region together.